Hello YouTube, ValleyGirl5678 here, and I am back to review the 3 a.m. tracks for Midnights and reveal my Midnights ranking and where Midnights fits into my Taylor Swift album ranking. Very exciting stuff. Let's get into it. So we all know the 3 a.m. tracks, something that Taylor surprised us with at 3 a.m. the morning of October 22nd. Usually when not just Taylor but any artist has bonus tracks on an album, it's usually maybe 1 to 4, maybe you'll get 5. Taylor said here's 7 because she's crazy and we love her for how crazy she is. Overall, the 3 a.m. tracks definitely stray a little bit sonically from the general Midnights aesthetic. There are ones that fit a bit more, notably the ones that she still worked with Jack on. The ones that she worked with Aaron on definitely have more of an Evermore vibe to it. But yeah, let's get into it. So the first one, The Great War, was produced and written by Taylor and Aaron Dessner. If you don't know who Aaron Dessner is, he is one of the members of the band The National, who Taylor has collaborated with, notably with the song Renegade, which technically was a single of theirs or was on one of their albums, but Taylor's the only vocalist on it. She wrote it. It's giving a Taylor track for sure. Now this one definitely has an Evermore feel to it, and it is also the track on, in my opinion, the entirety of Midnights, all 20 songs, that has the most queer literary and historic references. And that starts off from the get-go, first line, "My knuckles were bruised like violets." Violets being a very famous flower, color, whatever, that symbolizes not just queerness, but queerness in women. Plot-wise, the song very much ties into Afterglow, Peace, Cornelia Street, Hoax. Especially the third verse very much gives a line from Afterglow, "Put you in jail for something you didn't do." Now, I don't know if I've mentioned this on this channel, but there are many Taylor songs, notably mostly just on Folklore, Evermore, that I kind of put in the camp of songs that are about both her breakup / failed coming out / just falling out with Karlie Kloss, as well as the whole saga of losing her albums and being betrayed by Scott Borchetta. It helps that in my little timeline of things in my head, Karlie and Taylor's official end of the on and off that was their relationship for 7 years in heaven, happened around the same time that she was losing her albums. There were photos of Karlie with Scooter, but Scooter was also Karlie's manager at the time, or still is. It's complicated, and to be honest, I definitely don't know what went down, but I do get vibes that it was not only happening around the same time, but was related. So for example, some songs that I very much put in the camp of are about both Karlie and Scott Borchetta / Scooter Braun. Hoax, My Tears Ricochet. A lot of people, obviously, in fact most believe, what Taylor's told us, which is that Folklore and Evermore were fictional albums, not about her life whatsoever. However, she wrote these albums / came out with them right in the middle of the kind of end of the public fiasco that was losing her masters, as well as assuming Lover is about Karlie Kloss in, a loving way, which makes sense. Clearly some sort of finite end there happened with their relationship. So in my opinion, Taylor just had a lot of fucking material to work with that actually coincided together, that gave her incredible creative impulse, and she was able to give in to this certain folky sound of it all because of COVID. I don't think we would have gotten Folklore and Evermore without COVID, don't get me wrong, but I do think it didn't come out of thin air either. The main line that makes me feel like this song is very obviously about both situations being at the same time is, and maybe it was ego swinging, maybe it was her. I feel like it's similar to In Question, where the first line is "good girl, sad boy," and she's very much talking about Karlie Kloss, Josh Kushner. I feel like it's similar here, where it's maybe it was ego swinging, Scott Borchetta and Scooter Braun, duh. Maybe it was her. The way I'm reading it, I feel like it almost spells it out for us. All That Bloodshed, Crimson Clover. Now, obviously, Crimson Clover is an oldie song by this man. It's not good that I don't know his name. However, what's interesting is that artists that have famously covered the original song, Crimson and Clover, are artists that were asked a lot, the majority of their careers, what their sexuality was, and they never expressed a specific sexuality, never said they were straight, but also never said they were queer. Sounds like someone we know. But most notably, Joan Jett covered this song, and since she obviously gave gay, a lot of people questioned her sexuality, but she wouldn't speak on it. However, she did cover this song using she, her pronouns. Prince did the same thing. Of course, Taylor has covered the song using the original she, her pronouns. So just a little like drop in there. Obviously it relates to the idea of bloodshed, you know, the color crimson, which ties into maroon, you know. Taylor, she's always making the connections from song to song on an album, which I love. My hand was the one you reached for all throughout the Great War. Gives me this. Yeah. In verse 1, she says, "Tore your banners down, took the battle underground." I think in a lot of ways, obviously, she was starting to have some complications and frustrations with Big Machine. Towards the end, I mean, definitely I think started beginning of 1989 where people were just so unsure of her going full pop, and she like absolutely proved them all wrong. 1989 era into beginning of Reputation era, she was starting to have some problems with her record label, as well as, you know, start having tense conversations about her masters, which was around the same time that her and Carly stopped being friends or, you know, weren't seen in public together. And I will get to the last time they were seen in public together because it ties into Glitch. It's so exciting. So when she's saying like, "My hand was the one you reached for all throughout the Great War," I think it's implying that like the Great War is a specific period of time in her life where she was faced with many obstacles. Like, I'm not even fucking talking about the Taylor Swift Is Over party, and like that was a big part of it too. And also the idea of the Great War was what people called the World War I, implying a sense of like delusion that something worse couldn't possibly happen again because we've learned. I think she's very much using that reference here where she's saying like, "Oh, I'll always be yours because we survived the Great War." Little does she know World War II is coming and it's going to be more deadly. And in my opinion, that is the ultimate end of Kaylor. So yeah, I feel like the Great War just references just like the period of her being with Carly Kloss, having to beard, building frustrations with her record label, getting fucking canceled. The line "tears on the letter" makes me think of the line in Closure on Evermore. "Yes, I got your letter. Yes, I'm doing better. I know that it's over. I don't need your closure." In my mind, there were tears on that letter from Closure, you know? The second verse is what mainly gives me like the afterglow vibes that I previously mentioned. I love the line, "Diesel is desire, you were playing with fire." I think it's such a genius way of basically saying like, you were playing with my feelings and now it has erupted into not only fire, but eventually will be ashes. When she says, "It turned into something bigger, somewhere in the haze, had a sense I'd been betrayed." Mostly the first line just gives me her having to battle with, will I come out, will I not come out? Are you gonna be by my side while I do? Will you not? If I even do it. And also the whole battle with the masters. Both of those things turned into something bigger. I mean, Lover and the Miss Americana doc turned into, instead of Taylor coming out, you know, as gay, she came out as like a progressive. The line in Anti-Hero, "Did you hear my covert narcissism? I disguised as altruism." It's literally the Miss Americana documentary. And then of course the Masters ordeal became something much bigger as well because, you know, not only did she, you know, find this loophole for herself, but now a lot of record labels are like changing in contracts that you can't re-record your music. No one can do specifically what she's doing again, which is not a solution to the problem. It's just a way to like stop this loophole that Taylor Swift found, which is fucked up. But I do think also it's encouraging a lot of artists to make sure, if it's something that they know they care about or will eventually care about, to write their own music and own your masters from the beginning. Both of these things turned into something much bigger. And in the haze, the lavender haze, she had a sense she'd been betrayed because, you know, now your finger on my hairpin triggers. She is so sneaky. She is so sneaky. Just like in Right Where You Left Me, where she says, "I swear you could hear a hairpin drop." She could have just said, "I swear you could hear a pin drop," just like, you know, in, what's it called? The normal saying. But instead she puts in hairpin there to use hairpin, which I will put the definition of hairpin here. The fact that Taylor has not only used if she just used the term hairpin once, like, that's enough for us to know that this bitch is gay. Obviously in Right Where You Left Me, it's the play on words being, I swear you could hear a hairpin drop. And then here it's your finger on my hairpin triggers, which is, you know, a part of a gun. But she's saying your finger on my hairpin trigger, meaning that Taylor Swift is the gun. It obviously just, it means so many things. It means, you know, you have your finger on, you know, me, but also you have your finger on the fact that I'm gay and closeted, the fact that at any moment you could theoretically out me if you so desired. And then another attachment to Hoax, broken in blue, so I called off the troops, reminds me of don't want no other shade of blue but you. We can plant a memory garden, it gives me snuck in through the garden gate from Cruel Summer, which is very much about basically hiding her whole relationship with Karlie Kloss, where she very many times had to sneak in through the garden gate that was at the front of Karlie Kloss's West Village apartment. Now I know that there's like a more like historical reference with Place a Poppy in My Hair, but what I think of is in Wizard of Oz, Dorothy, you know Dorothy. I talked about in my last video what a friend of Dorothy means. It's basically like saying, does she listen to Girl in Red? Obviously, Dorothy passes out in the field of poppies in Wizard of Oz, so when she says, place a poppy in my hair, that is where my brain is going at least. So yeah, I really like The Great War. It's not like my favorite song on the album or anything, but I love the melody, instrumentation slaps, cause like Aaron can do no wrong. So Bigger Than the Whole Sky was produced and written by Taylor and Jack Antonoff. This song is about loss in general and can very easily be tied to many different types of loss. That's why I think this song is honestly the most relatable song on all of Midnight's. I think if you've been through anything, which everyone has, you will find this song comforting and also potentially triggering. The line "salt streams out my eyes and into my ears" is so beautiful. It's such a beautiful way to say I am crying laying down. And then it obviously ties in with would've, could've, should've at the end of the chorus, what would've been, could've, should've been you. I love the instrumentation and production. It's so pretty. But yeah, this is, you know, definitely one of my least played tracks on Midnight's and probably will always be, but mostly just because it tears at the heartstrings. It's like Soon You'll Get Better or Ronin. It fits into that camp. Like We Were in Paris, written by Jack and Taylor. So at first listen, the first verse was giving gay because it's saying, okay, in my mind, the your is the same your as in the chorus when Taylor says, drew a map on your bedroom ceiling. Assuming those are the same yours, Taylor is talking to her lover, and it's saying your ex-friend's sister met someone at a club and he kissed her. Turns out it was that guy you hooked up with ages ago, some wannabe Z-lister. I think I will always hear it in that way, but I do also get, especially if you look on Genius, there's specific quotation marks, that kind of being like someone saying to Taylor all of that, and then she says, no I didn't, but thanks though. You can read it as then she goes into the chorus saying, cause I'm so in love, kind of like, no I didn't, but thanks though, I don't really care cause I'm so in love. Or it could all be kind of like Karlie saying all that to Taylor, and Taylor being like, no I didn't, but thanks though, illy. So yeah, you can read it in so many different ways. It's Taylor's specialty. Again, Taylor can only write a super gay song if you can read it not just from a gay way and a heterosexual way, but somewhere in the middle to throw us the fuck off. The fact that she rhymed Paris, the word Paris, with somewhere else, some people don't like it, but it's so only Taylor could do that and make it work. Like, I can't believe it works, but it does. It's crazy. And then of course, cannot talk about Paris without sit quiet by my side in the shade, and not the kind that's thrown, I mean the kind under where a tree has grown. It's so millennial of her. It's so cute. Now, I think the bridge is actually the gayest part of this song. I want to transport you to somewhere the culture's clever. In the olden times when it was really not okay to be gay, a lot of rich people in Europe and America, I believe, if they had obviously queer children, they would send them to boarding school in Paris because it was the easiest place to hide in plain sight. So obviously her saying like, I want to transport you to somewhere the culture is clever, to somewhere the culture at least accepts aesthetics of queerness, and then confess my truth in swooping, sloping, cursive letters. But yeah, this is such a bob. It's so silly. She did something weird here, but she did something. I don't know what the fuck is in this song, but I want to snort some of that. Okay, High Infidelity. Co-written and produced by Taylor and Aaron. The Zoe Kravitz of it all is quite obvious to me. Zoe was in the TV adaptation of the movie High Fidelity. So generally, in my mind, this song is about Zoe's ex-husband finding Zoe cheating on him with Taylor. And I think there's multiple perspectives going down specifically in the second verse. However, I'll get to why, but I do have the hardest time wrapping my head around who this song is about and whatever like that, because I very much get Zoe, as I mentioned, but then I also very much get like Carly and Josh Kushner, and Carly very much, you know, kind of saying like, do I really have to tell you how he brought me back to life, and I do like my new life, and that's why, you know, she didn't want Taylor to out her. But then the drag my feet right down the aisle gives me Zoe and her ex-husband, because they were not married for very long, and it did not seem like that was like a super slay relationship. I even potentially get like her dad, which we all know he's homophobic. I also even get like maybe even some like angry Calvin Harris vibes from that era. Also, if you haven't seen the bearding tweets, I'm putting them here because like this is, everyone in America should have to read this in the 4th grade, okay? He outed her, and the world is so straight that everyone was like, why is Calvin Harris talking about growing a beard? Got him a Grammy. That's so silly. She is a lucky bitch. She is a lucky bitch. Now, well, you could technically say the song is about her, you know, cheating on Calvin with Tom, or her, you know, cheating on Tom with Joe, or whatever, and put a heterosexual explanation to it. I do see that possibility. However, with the line lock broken, slur spoken, wound open, I'd pay if you just know me, it's giving bearding, and then put on your headphones and burn my city reminds me of he's gonna burn this house to the ground in Ivy. And these two songs very much match up together narratively, so I would definitely listen to like Ivy and then this, or vice versa. A lot of people think Ivy could be giving Zoe Kravitz. They quarantine together, like. And then in the chorus, I bent the truth too far tonight. I was dancing around it, dancing around it. Similarly in Mastermind, how she's kind of saying like, it was all by design because I'm a mastermind. She is talking about the more superficial like plot in the song of, you know, the person she tricked into loving her, which is just, you know, ridiculous. But then I also do think she's very much talking, you know, to the fans and just to the ether in general, basically saying like, it's all by design. Like, I am able to be Taylor Swift, LLC brand Taylor Swift, because I have designed it. This one obviously gives me like, I bent the truth too far. I was dancing around it as far as like the infidelity of it all, but it also at the same time gives me like, I bent the truth too far. I've been dancing around it. Like she's been dancing around her queerness since like 1989 now. And then your picket fence was sharp as knives. I was dancing around it. Then obviously, you know, Taylor references cages and picket fences a lot, specifically in Midnight Rain, full of cages, full of fences. But she's also talked about picket fences in past songs through other lyrics. Famously, a white picket fence signifies just like the 1950s shit. The 1950s American ideals and dreams and all of that. Here she's saying your picket fence is sharp as knives. The 1950s shit you want from me is so sharp that if I got close to it, it would wound me, which is why I'm dancing around it. So again, this gives me the general public expecting heterosexuality from Taylor Swift, expecting, you know, a normal, you know, timeline for a woman, like at this point, you know, oh, like she's 32, she should be married with a baby. Then also she could theoretically just be talking about the specific person that is in this instance. I love how she says she was dancing around the truth and using that term dancing around in a metaphorical way. And then when she says your picket fence is sharp as knives, she is dancing around it in a metaphorical way, as well as theoretically physical because she can dance around the fence, right? Ugh, it's genius. It's genius. And then It's Never Enough. It's never enough reminds me of peace. No, I could never give you peace. I almost forgot to mention the most important line of the whole song. Do you really want to know where I was April 29th? She says it so many times in this song. I love that line in general. It's so mischievous and eerie. It's great, perfect for this track. But in general, not just because of that line, but in general, whenever I listen to this song, my head is scrambled because I cannot help but try and put some sort of narrative to it, or my brain can't help but try its hardest, and it ends up just being this. Like, you know, sonically, the song has like the evermore hop to it. I did just coin that term, thank you very much. When I say the evermore hop, this is very obvious in songs like Renegade, Ivy, and Right Where You Left Me, which makes complete sense given that this is an Erin track. Generally, I just love the instrumentation and her vocal performance on this song, specifically like her range. Like she's going down, she's going up, she's going sideways, it's good stuff. Glitch. This one was written and produced by Jack and Taylor. It was also written and produced by Soundwave, who worked on Lavender Haze and Karma, and then was also written by Sam Dew, who was the other co-writer alongside Taylor and Jack on Midnight Rain. Now, this is one of my personal faves off this album. Oh my god, I love this song for everything it is. This song screams Carly motherfucking Kloss. I am sorry. Starting with, we were supposed to be just friends. I don't want you like a best friend. 5 seconds later, I'm fastening myself to you with a stitch. A lot of people think that might reference a strap-on. Very saucy, very rar, very sexy, which this song is, so it makes sense to me. But then the most Carly Kloss lyric of it all is, but it's been 2,190 days since our love blackout. Now people are like, that's a very specific number, what does that mean? Some lovely person on TikTok Googled what 2,190 days prior to October 21st, the release of Midnights was. That date, obviously, you remember. And it was on this day. This photo was taken the last day, Taylor and Carly were seen in public together. They are in all black. But it also very much was their love blackout in the sense that while their love wasn't being obviously showcased to the world because they were like, we're best friends, it was being shown in some way, you know, they were holding hands in public, like there was love there, you know, obviously many would argue it was only platonic, whatever, but there was love. And it was all over our screens, it was all over the internet. It's been 2,190 days since our love blackout. Seeing a photo of them two together on a screen, it's done, the movie's over, it's blacked out. Overall, the production, instrumentation, and melody is what makes the song so good for me, not necessarily the lyrics. Also, her backing vocals on this track are incredible. Obviously, that goes hand in hand with production, but please listen out for those if you haven't. They're so good. Taylor is, in my opinion, one of the best at not only knowing when to put in backing vocals, but what to do with them and how to perform them. Okay, would've, could've, should've. Oof. This one was produced and written by Taylor and Erin. Also very much has that Evermore vibe, that Evermore hop to it. This song to me is about two specific things. The John Mayer of it all. At 19, and her basically finally, you know, Dear John was very much like, wow, I'm 20 years old, and how could you have done that to me last year when I was 19? And now she's like, oh, now that I'm grown, I see that you groomed me, sir. And there's a lot of lines that point to that, obviously, you know, and if I was a child, did it matter if you got to wash your hands? And Lord, you made me feel important, and then tried to erase us. But then it also does give me a certain guilt that comes with having religious trauma as a queer person and just like, you know, how that all interacts. I think superficially the song is about John Mayer and everything that went down there, but then I also think The song just generally has this theme, obviously, of like religious undertones, the religious guilt undertones. Some of my favorite lines in this incredibly written song: memories feel like weapons. The bridge. Oh God, I miss my soul. I miss who I used to be. The tomb won't close. Stained glass windows in my mind. All of that is incredible. It's good stuff. It's good fucking stuff. And then, to top it off, cherry on top, I regret you all the time. Oh my God. Something about that line. One of my favorite lines she's written. I know it seems simple, but I regret you all the time. I don't know. And then the way the song builds to a point where you feel like it's like getting to the end, but then verse 3 comes in with the ultimate roast, the ultimate jab, the ultimate admittance. Give me back my girlhood, it was mine first. Now that's one of the best lines she's ever written. And she sings it kind of like she sounds in like Fearless and Speak Now. Like the way her voice cracks on girlhood. This whole song is perfect, angry, Evermore vibes. The key change at the end is so Taylor, it's so perfect. Taylor knows when to keep a song going, when to end a song, when to, you know, make a key change. Like the key change and the repetition, in my opinion, is what makes the song so dramatic and like iconic. Dear Reader, the last track was done by Jack and Taylor. It's a very sonically chill closer that kind of brings us back to / ties together with the sonic aesthetic of Midnights as a whole, especially with the pitch down vocals that we get on Midnight Rain and Labyrinth. In many ways, this song feels directed at / for the Gaylors. There are lines in here that I feel are kind of being used in a way of saying to the Gaylors, I'm not gonna come out as you see, as some think is necessary of me to do, at least at this time, and here's why. The first one notably being, Dear Reader, you don't have to answer just because they asked you. And then, Dear Reader, the greatest of luxuries is your secrets. And then, I prefer hiding in plain sight. And then, you wouldn't take my word for it if you knew who was talking, if you knew where I was walking, to a house, not a home, all alone because nobody's there, where I pace in my pen and my friends found friends who care, nobody sees, you lose when you're playing solitaire. It's just interesting that she feels like she goes home to a house, not a home, all alone because nobody is there. If, you know, her loving boyfriend of 6 years is. Like, it's kind of the same thing as like, in Question, does it feel like everything's just second best after that meteor strike? Oof, like if I was Joe Alwyn hearing that, that's sad. And then the outro, I think, is a really good way to end the album, especially being, you know, her 10th studio album. She knew she was gonna break the fucking, all the records with this. She has more fans than she ever has, which is crazy. But I do still feel like she's very much speaking to the Gaylors, saying you should find another guiding light. You should find someone that can be that queer, that outward queer representation for you, because I cannot be that person for you. You should find another, you know, guiding light in that sense, because it ties into the idea of this whole song of her being like, I prefer hiding in plain sight. I prefer being in my glass closet. But then she obviously admits, but I shine so bright. Like, I understand why you have this, you know, connection with me in that way, especially if you're a queer person that notices queerness in me. You know, like, I shine so bright, not only my talent, but my truth that you're able to see. But you should find another, because I don't want to disappoint you, because I'm the anti-hero. But yeah, that takes us to the end of Midnights. I promised you a ranking of Midnights, so here she is. Literally, there are no skips on this album, so this is a ranking of 20 incredible songs, okay? Like, I just want to put that there. Like, 16 and upwards, I, like, love. Like, I love these songs, okay? So, just for context, so no one gets, like, mad at me, okay? Like, someone had to go first and someone had to go last. I don't make the rules. And then my album ranking. So, Midnights is, like, 0.1, 0.2 points ahead of Folklore. In many ways, I do think they're like, they sit on the same plane, and I think there's gonna be a lot of times where I'm feeling Folklore number 1, Midnight's number 2, and vice versa. But yeah, I think that Folklore and Midnight's will always lay on my number 1. But I think this album is so perfect and iconic. But yeah, that brings me to the end of my 3am Tracks review. My next video coming out will be my top 30 songs of the year, so please subscribe and like to stay tuned for that video. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for my next video, and stay happy and healthy and safe. Mwah. Bye.